Sorry that we haven't been uploading recently. We've had a few problems with our Twitter account, which have kind of sidetracked us. Not ideal. But we're back now, so make sure you follow us at Second Tier Pod on Twitter. We're getting towards the end of the season now, and that means plenty of players are out of contract and looking towards their future for next season. Strangely enough, in the Championship this season, we seem to have a higher standard of players who will be leaving on a free this summer because their deals are expiring. Who are some of those players you could get on the cheap this summer? Well, let me tell you right now. Here's an 11 of Championship players who are out of contract this summer. Goalkeeper, Sam Johnstone. Sam Johnston's quite a strange one because if you ask any Albion fan how he's done this season, you might get a bit of a reaction like, meh. Despite him being involved in the England setup, despite still playing in the Championship, Albion fans haven't been too impressed with him, despite him playing really well in the Premier League last season. He looks destined to be leaving the Hawthorns this summer, with a move back to the Premier League probably likely. It's always going to happen, isn't it, when you've got a goalkeeper who's, despite playing Championship football, is regularly being called up to the England squad, although injuries have helped him in this case. But yeah, he'll be back in the Premier League next season, and it'll be interesting to see who West Brom get in to replace him. Probably Palmer, who's currently on loan at Luton. He's on loan there from the Hawthorns. Right back, Andy Yiadom. As far as solid Championship right backs go, Andy Yiadom is right up there. No nonsense, he's not the kind of right back who will get you a whole load of assists or goals across the course of the season. But if you're looking for solid, dependable right back, Yiadom is right up there. There'll be someone that Reading fans will want to keep hold of as well, because he's been fairly good this season despite Reading's defensive woes. He has had a couple of injury problems as the season has gone on. But if you do sign him up, and I imagine he probably will go to another Championship side if he doesn't sign another deal to stay at the Select Cars Leasing Stadium, what you'll be getting is a Championship right back who will be dependable as ever, and that's pretty much what you get with him. Centre back number 1, Darragh Lenihan. It's strange that we're nearly in April at the time of recording, and one of the best centre-halves in the division this season could be leaving their club on a free, and that's basically what we've got with Darragh Lenihan. He's not the first big name at Blackburn as well who is out of contract this summer and could be leaving on a free, which is why this was kind of make or break for Blackburn's promotion chances this season, and where they sit next season is going to be interesting. But more on Lenihan, he has been fantastic this season. If you're talking about no-nonsense defenders, he is right up there, but he can also play with the ball a bit as well. So he's going to be a really sought-after centre-half this season. He has been linked with a move to the MLS, but personally I'd like to think that he'll go to a Premier League side because he is that good. Centre-back number 2, Sean Morrison. For many years now, Sean Morrison has been one of the best centre-halves at Championship level and has been a stalwart for Cardiff ever since he joined. He's been a fantastic player for them, but unfortunately injuries have caught up with him, and now Cardiff are kind of at an impasse as what they do with him next. He's a high earner at the club, and because he has had these injury problems, they're not sure whether to keep him or not, and they've got to kind of make a decision on what they do with his future. Do they give him a new deal? But if they do, it's going to have to be drastically reduced terms. Otherwise, they just let him go. And I think he could be a decent pickup for a Championship side, whether it's backup for a promotion chasing side, or if you get him back to his best, he'll be a really good centre half for a mid-table Championship team. He is getting on a bit now, and he has had a few more injuries than he has had previously in his career, but without a doubt he's a leader in the dressing room as well and could be a really handy pickup for many Championship sides. Left back, Christian Pedersen. For me, and I'm not just saying it because he's part of this team, but Christian Pedersen's been one of the most underrated defenders in the Championship. For Birmingham, he has been a really consistent defender despite the numerous woes that they've had. They've barely got out of a relegation battle in the time that he's been there, but he's been a really dependable player throughout that time. He can play centre-half, can play left-back, can play left wing-back. He's a really good defender. I think he'll be a really good pickup for many Championship sides. He may go abroad, back to Denmark. I don't really know what his future plans are, but Birmingham will be looking to keep hold of him because he has been one of the more consistent Birmingham players that they've had over the past few years, considering they haven't had many consistent players over the past few years. Right wing, Jed Wallace. Boy, oh boy, Jed Wallace on a free transfer. This will be a really impressive move for any Championship side if they manage to get him. My gut instinct says he'll go to the Premier League, but you keep in mind Forest were trying to get him in January. I think if he does leave Millwall, which is looking very likely, I think he's outgrown the club really, and this is his last chance to get a top move because he is getting on a bit now. He'll be a really, really good move. And I'm just loving the thought of him in a Forest side next season. Whether that's with Brennan Johnson, I'm not too sure. But if, for example, Forest do lose Brennan Johnson, Chad Wallace will be one hell of a replacement for him. I've just been looking at his figures. The lowest goal contributions he's managed in the past 5 seasons is 8. That is amazing consistency for a player like him, who isn't exactly playing in a Millwall side where players have been chipping in with goals and assists like he has. He has been at times a one-man team for them over the past few years, and if he manages to play in a side with players equally as talented as him or more talented than him, he'll be a really, really dangerous player for any Championship side. We'll see where he goes in the summer, shall we? Centre mid number 1, Fabio Carvalho. I have seen reports recently that Carvalho has agreed terms with Liverpool. How confirmed that is, I'm not too sure. But whoever gets Fabio Carvalho this summer, they're going to have one hell of a player on their hands. Only 19 years old. He is such a talent. He's one of the most talented teenagers I've seen in the Championship, without a doubt. When you've got a player who's playing as regularly as Carvalho has this season for Fulham, and keep in mind how good Fulham have been across the course of the season, he's going to be an amazing pickup for any team in the country, quite frankly, because his potential is startling. I would say he's destined to be a future England international, but I think he's got to pass some sort of test before he can start playing for England's youth teams. But he is part Portuguese as well, so he could very well go on to play for Portugal. Anyway, he's going to be a future international. I can tell you that right now. He's a fabulous player. He can dribble, he can score, and his passing range is just astonishing. A lovely player, lovely to watch. He's going to be one of the most sought after hot prospects in the summer, as long as he hasn't already signed for Liverpool. Centre mid number 2, John Swift. I mentioned Yeardham earlier in the video. John Swift is going to be a massive blow for Reading if he goes as well, because he'll be leaving Reading when his stock has never been higher. He's got 11 goals, 13 assists this season. He has been one of the best centre midfielders in the Championship this season, and will have a queue of clubs lining up to get him if he does indeed leave Reading. I was amazed as well to see he's only 26, so he's still got plenty of years ahead of him. He's got his best years ahead of him as well, so I imagine he'll probably go to a Championship side, and whoever does get him in the summer, again, it's going to be another really top player that you're getting for peanuts, quite frankly. He has had his injury problems over the years for Reading, particularly last season when he was barely out the treatment room, but when he does play, he's a marvellous player. His passing is probably the best in the division, at least in the top 5. Dribbling, fantastic. Shown this season that he can score goals as well. You get everything with him. Centre mid number 3, Nick Powell. I don't think I need to go into too much detail about how good Nick Powell is. Anyone who watches the Championship for the past few years knows how good he is. Of course, he's not going to meet the standards of the potential that many people thought he had when he first moved to Manchester United, infamously all those years ago. But he has proved to be a really, really important player for Stoke. I have been told that he's got an extra year option, but, and this isn't the first time I'm going to say this in the video, if he has got that option, why hasn't it been triggered yet? Just something I'm a bit concerned about. So if Powell does in fact leave Stoke, then that's another big player who's going to be available for peanuts this summer. And it's going to be a massive blow for Stoke as well, because he's one of their top 3 best players. The others being Harry Souttar and Tyrese Campbell have both had their own injury problems over the past few years. So Powell is going to be a massive loss for Stoke, but a big boost for someone else. Left wing, Tom Lawrence. Lawrence is having his best season in a Derby shirt, and it's coming ironically when they've been fighting at the bottom of the table, considering he's been there for quite a few years now and they've been near the top of the table instead. It looks likely he's going to leave, unfortunately for Derby fans, just quite frankly because they can't afford his wages, because we all know what Derby's financial problems are like right now, and considering they look like they're going to be in League One next season, I don't think Lawrence will want to step down. Plus he'll have a queue of clubs lining up to get him as well in January. January, in fact, he was being linked with moves to the likes of QPR and West Brom. So they're going to be queuing up again to get him, and it wouldn't surprise me if there are other sides looking at him, because he'll be a really, really good player at a Championship side next season. The issue is he may be one of those players who plays better in a team where the emphasis is on him. You know what I mean? Where he's not just another part of another load of stars. So that's one concern I'd have. But he is, in his prime years now, and he's shown this season how good he can be when he's given a starring role, and I fully expect that to happen again wherever he goes in the summer. And in the striker position, Ben Brereton Diaz. Now, I will add the caveat here that Brereton Diaz has apparently got an extra year option at Blackburn. But again, I asked the question, if he has got that, why hasn't it been triggered yet? I don't know. I don't know the logistics around the whole situation. But if Brereton Diaz is available on a free this summer, then he is going to be probably the most sought after player out of all these players here, apart from maybe Fabio Carvalho because he's 19. It's always going to be the case, isn't it, when you've had a season like he has, 20 goals after previous seasons where he's barely notched double figures. But he's been sensational for Blackburn this season, and his absence from the Blackburn team has been evident for all to see. In the time that he's been away, Blackburn have really struggled for goals and are desperately needing him back in the side. And that's going to be a massive issue for them next season if he's not there. But for another side, he's going to be a really big boost. I imagine he'll probably go to the Premier League, because it is worth mentioning, he's only 22. I know, it feels like he's another one who's been around for ages, but he's going to be a really, really big signing for anyone who gets him, because he's got all the attributes to play in a Premier League team, I think. He's shown this season that he can score, but he's also a big lad. He's quick, he can set up chances as well. You've got everything you'd want in a forward player, and I think he'll be a really, really good buy for any player, and you don't even need to buy him. So yeah, he'll be one who I think many clubs will be eyeing up this summer, whether he has that extension or not, because I think quite a few clubs will be looking to sign him permanently as well, because they may be able to get him cheaper if he is just got an extra year left on his deal. As was mentioned earlier with Lenihan, that means it's now Lenihan, Brereton Diaz and Joe Rothwell, I think, as well, is another Blackburn player who's out of contract this summer, and that's basically Blackburn's spine. Concerning if you're a Rovers fan. So there you have it, an 11 of Championship players who are out of contract this summer. As I say, some of them have got an extra year on their deals with the option clause thing. I don't really understand it personally, but I mean, just look at this team, look at it. It's not far off. I mean, some of these players are players who will be involved in the team of the season discussion come the end of the season. It's mental how good the standard of players is that are out of contract this summer. It's going to be a busy one for plenty of Championship clubs and Premier League clubs who will be looking at these players going, yeah, may as well get them in while they're going for free. So we've been the second tier. Let us know in the comments below which of these players you'd like to get in your side this summer, because I imagine there'll be quite a few who you'll be looking at going, okay, yeah, I'd like a bit of that. Let me know which of these players you'd like, and also like and subscribe for more content like this in the future. I've been Ryan Dilks, and we'll see you again very soon.